Hack the Real Size podcast with Heather, Ashley, and myself, Keira, where we like to delve into the personal journeys of people in the entertainment industry with a little bit of cheeky banter. And today we are very, very excited to have Mr. Dawan Owens. So Dawan has been a stand-up comic, and he's been in Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and The Ranch, and also If Loving You Is Wrong. So you have, if you look at your IMDb, it literally goes on and on and on and on. You have been in so many things. So that's brilliant. I mean, we
It's
cannot wait
never
to hear all about
enough.
that.
It's never enough. I want more.
Then you're in the right industry then, aren't you?
Right?
Good. So how are you today? You're all good?
I'm good. Thank you for having me. I mean, anytime somebody asks, requests to talk to me, I think is always a blessing. And you always have to understand that, like, people don't have to listen to you. That's not a requirement. And anytime someone asks to hear your opinion on something, I always feel honored. So thank you, ladies, for having me.
You're very welcome. We're very, very excited. And I know you say you're no good at giving advice, but I guarantee there's going to be some moments in the next hour where we sit there and be like, well,
I don't know about
just did it.
guarantees. And just so it doesn't seem weird, I have a coffee and a tea, and I switch between them both halfway through. So if you just see me picking up stuff, don't let it throw you. Red is tea and silver is coffee.
So I will just start with some little icebreaker questions just
Okay.
to get to know you a little bit better. It can be quick fire, or we can edit out the pauses if you need time to think. It's fine.
All right, let's see.
So, number one, when was the last time you were nervous?
Every day, all the time. I'm always nervous. I was probably nervous before this. I'm a nervous person. Like, I always care for, if I'm being real, I care what people think of me. And I don't want to, but I care. But that also means I care about people. So empathy is a big thing with me. I grew up fairly athletic, not fairly, I played sports in college. I don't have to always be self-deprecating. But I have a large birthmark on my face. And so even though I was cool, kids picked on me. And so I was always, when I got to be 6'4", 220, I was always worried about what other people were doing to people who couldn't protect themselves. So I don't even know where this question started. But yeah, I'm always nervous. Next.
Oh, thank you for letting us in a little bit there. This is why I love my part of the podcast, because you find some amazing things about people. What's the most expired item in your fridge?
Expired?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Or you're one of these good people that actually...
I was like, what inspires you? My lettuce inspires me. When I look
the
at
avocado really inspiring.
It's probably some celery that's probably under some salad or yogurt.
Because no one has celery. We buy it because we think we're going to be healthy. Then we realize it tastes like dirt.
Man, and then by the time you get it, it's flimsy. And I'm like, I just bought this celery. Yeah. Where's the 2021 celery that just stays good?
Mine like blueberries. I always have the best intent for blueberries, and then I like eat some, and then I find like a squishy, and I'm like, the whole thing's ruined. I can't.
See, I will pick until I find that the strong blueberry. I will not throw blueberries expensive. I will pick and pick and pick and just. Oh, that's a good one.
Blueberry appreciation here. What is the acceptable amount of TV to binge watch in one sitting?
Depends on where you are at in the day. Like when I have a crappy day, there's not too much. You infinite amount, right? Like if you're having a crappy day, crappy week, watch some TV, zone out. You know what I mean? Like people are like, oh, you're too old to play video games and stuff. I tell people sometimes if you need to get something that can get your mind out of the thing that you're doing and stop spiraling, do that, whether it's TV, working out, video games, whatever. As long as it's not excessive every day. Now, if you spent 5 days on the couch and Handmaid's Tale is finished and you rewatched it, like nobody's gonna go back and rewatch Handmaid's Tale, right? Like
the girls are like,
you know what I mean? That's like watching 12 Years a Slave twice. Like, I mean, we got the point first time. Like, I don't really need to see, that's my thoughts.
Have you been binge watching anything recently?
I wish I could binge watch Handmaid's Tale, but they keep dropping one episode at a time on me, and that's not appropriate. What else? No, I think I'm so particular about what I watch. Yeah, if it doesn't catch me in the first like 15 minutes, I can't really get in. Only thing that like Game of Thrones was the only thing, because so many people were like, yo, you gotta watch Game of Thrones. And I was like, well, if it's this important in my life development, I guess I need to see it through. And then it was amazing. But
The
sometimes
last
people
season, really.
Game of Thrones from top to bottom is a great show. Don't do that with me.
Oh,
okay.
I'm trying.
No, that's fine.
Have you watched Schitt's
No,
Creek?
I mean, but no, great, like The Wire to me. I'm from Baltimore, so that's like one of the best shows ever. But there was a season when they went to the docks and you were like, what are you doing? Why are we on the docks? Like, go back to what you're doing. Right. So there are, I mean, even good shows have bad runs.
Yeah. Have you watched Schitt's Creek?
One of my really good friends, Sarah Levy, is in
Schitt's Creek. Oh, I can't even say it now.
She's in Schitt's Creek, and her brother, Dan Levy, and her father are also in it. So yeah, it's a hilarious show. And I just did a movie with Sarah called Social Distancing. We did in September.
Oh, awesome. Well, I was going to say, you got to watch that one because that was my last binge and I cried. I was laughing so hard. Like,
I
crying.
was like, you cried at Schitt's Creek? Did I watch the wrong show?
You watched Schitt's Creek, not Schitt's Creek.
Oh, see that? A couple of letters.
One of them's really sad.
So is Social Distance, is that coming out? Did it come out in September or?
And, no, we shot it in September. Sarah and Alan Tunick and so many other great, another good friend of mine, Rory Scoville, who I actually started stand up with. I don't know when they're gonna release it, but we shot it in September. I did my job. I can't control the back end. Okay, Heather?
What's your favorite item you purchased this year?
Oh, well, we just redid my garage because I had to have a place to have testosterone. So I purchased a Tempo, which is like the mirror but better. Because it has like weights and AI. I did CrossFit for years, and so it has like weights and the AI that checks out your form when you're working out. So it's my favorite. It's me and my Tempo in here sometimes.
That sounds impressive. Yeah. I want one of them.
I did too.
You got one. If you were a potato, this is a very abstract one. If you're a potato, which way would you like to be cooked?
If I was a potato, I wouldn't let nobody cook me.
No, okay, you're a rogue
like,
potato.
You're not cooking me. Like, I would definitely be a sweet potato, right? But I don't think I would let anybody cook me. I'm not going out like that.
Now I have this image of a sweet potato with like arms and like
right.
Like,
yeah. He's got a bandana.
It's like a little mirror, like workout thing.
You're like start to cut it and just grab your wrist. Like,
yeah. I think we found an interesting new program that should be made. What did 2020 teach you?
Oh, that it didn't really teach me much other than it solidified some things for me. It solidified that family is always going to be the most important thing. God and family for me. That health is like that. All these other things that I'm striving for are additional, right? Like, I mean, there was days when all we were thinking about is like, oh, we're good. We're blessed to have a house and a yard for our kids to play in. We're healthy. Like, other than that, everything is kind of extra. We have a place to live. I remember at the beginning, I don't know how it was where you guys, but in LA, you go to the store and I'm buying like soy tacos because that's all they had. Like the first couple of days, I'm like, that's not what we do. I'm a black dude from Baltimore. I ain't eating no soy tacos. But that was all they had. So it was like this frantic, like, oh my gosh, they're gonna have toilet paper. Oh, what are you gonna wipe your butt with? What are you gonna wipe your hands with? No paper towels. Like all this, and you start to realize like all these other things are just additional, right? If I have food, if we can laugh and be a family and spend time together, man, those are the things that are important.
Definitely. See how we switch gears? We go from potatoes to introspective.
I love it.
We are so versatile.
Just like life is random.
It
Like
really
if you're
is.
not prepared for it, if you think it's going to be linear, you're on the wrong planet.
Exactly. There you go. That's our excuse, and we're sticking to it. Where did you and your best friend meet?
Oh, me and my best friend met at the University of Pittsburgh the first day of school. And like I was walking down the aisle to find some place to sit, and I saw another dude, and I was like, "Oh, he seems cool. I don't have no friends here. Let me just sit next to him." And then we chopped it up, and we were best friends for 22 years. And unfortunately, passed away from cancer 2 years ago.
Oh, I'm sorry to hear that. It's a beautiful story, though. It's amazing how one moment in your life can just change everything. Just meeting somebody.
Exactly. Yeah. And I mean,
Has-
I don't regret. I mean, he was my best friend for 22 years. It was amazing.
That's gorgeous. That's really, really lovely. If you could recast any film using just the Muppets with only one human actor, which film and who would be the actor?
If I could recast a film, you got to repeat this. So if I could recast a film,
Yeah, and you're only allowed to use the
a
Muppet.
Muppet movie,
No.
No,
like
it has to be a normal film and you're
Normal film.
recasting it, but you're only using Muppets. But as with the Muppets, they tend to have just one human character in their Muppet films. So you
Mhm.
could have one human and the rest are Muppets. What film would you choose?
Oh, I would choose something. I need something like gritty, because I want to see Miss Piggy um, like Set It Off. I would pick like Set It Off, and Miss Piggy would be Queen Latifah.
Yes.
And who would be the human person? Viola Davis, because Viola Davis in anything is just like, I would love to see her. I mean, I think she'd be the scariest woman in that movie because Viola Davis can bring it. Yeah.
That sounds a really interesting watch. No one's
Yeah.
done that
You
route. I
imagine
like
Miss Peggy and Set It Off?
I could see her, and when you said Queen Latifah, I was like, yes. But then, like, who would play the counterpart? Would you put her as Viola or her counterpart?
Well, there's four of them, right? There's like four girls, and they like set it off.
Yeah.
But I don't know all the Muppets to know who the other Muppet people should be, but I just know that I want to see Miss Piggy in a leading role. Maybe everybody else step back for a minute. Let Miss Piggy shine.
Yeah, no, I agree. She's kind of always portrayed as the cray cray. So
Exactly.
I think that she needs to have her leading lady moment. I love it. Thank you.
Right.
Very
I mean, give a woman a leading role and let everybody else sit in the back.
bovine, a female bovine, a leading role. I think it is about time, inclusivity. We need it.
Miss Piggy's not a bovine.
Oh, she's a porcine. Sorry.
But bovine is cow.
Cow, it
She's
is
not
cow,
a
yeah.
cow. It's
Well,
not cowy.
she may identify as a cow, okay? You don't know that, Heather.
Hey, she may be digging deep on this role.
Exactly. She's going method all out.
Mm-hmm.
The one question we really like to ask all our guests, because I think it's very pertinent this time of year with everything that's just been going on. How long do you think you would realistically survive in a zombie apocalypse?
I'm surviving till the end because in every other movie, the Black person gets killed, and I'm not going out like that. I'm going to be the last one standing, just for my people, all the brown people across the world.
Yeah, I was pissed when Tyrese went out. I was like, "What the?" And then Noah, I'm like, Noah.
Every horror movie, black person first one killed.
Which makes no sense because in reality, if there's a sound, first they're not looking. The white people, we're like, wait, I'm gonna go check that out. I'm gonna go look at it.
I didn't want to be the one to say it.
Down. No, we're the one that's falling down with
white people are more inquisitive. It's okay.
Inquisitive.
Like, hey, what is that over there? I'm like, I don't care what it is.
That's how I am. I'm like, noise. I'm going the other way. See ya. We were.
Me and Heather running.
Yeah, I was at the ocean when our kids were a lot younger, and we were like knee deep. And my oldest, who was only like in 4th grade at the time, he's like, "Oh, something just brushed against me," and I'm like, "What is it?" And he looked, and it was a little hammerhead shark. It was actually a bonnet shark, but it looks like a hammerhead. Do you know what I did? He still does not let me live this down. I put my hand on his chest, and I pushed him back so I could run to the shore. I know. I was like, "Oh my God, I just sacrificed."
You were teaching him a moment.
Huh?
You were teaching him a moment of
that everybody's out for themselves.
Yeah.
He gets back to the shore. See what happened? You see what happened back there? See, everybody's gonna be out for themselves, even your mom. Okay, so don't trust nobody. You see something, you know. And my thought when you told that story was like, see, even Heather waited too long. I couldn't have told you what type of shark it was, right? Something touched my leg, I'm out. It could have been algae. It could have been right, little seaweed, whatever. I'm out.
You
I'll
would
figure
not.
it out
You
on
wouldn't
the
have.
shore.
You wouldn't have pushed your daughter. You probably would have grabbed and ran.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes. I mean, if this is being recorded, yep.
Yep.
Never know when she might see it. Yep, baby,
I'm not the only one.
Yep.
I'm not the only one.
You were showing him that the strong will survive, and
exactly. And he made it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow. You want to wrap it up like that? That is absolutely fine, Heather. That's fine. We will stand by you. Which child was it who now hates you?
Oh, it was poor Al, my oldest. Poor kid.
Well,
Look, he's what, 17 now?
He's 18.
18? See, look.
He survived that long. He's fine.
He made it.
He told me that he'd be pushing me out next time. I'm like, yeah, you will.
Yeah, you won't stand up to him now. Thank you so much for answering my ridiculous questions. It's been wonderful to get to know you a little bit better. I will now hand you over to the very capable hands of Ashley.
Thank you.
I'm a little bit more serious, so sorry. I mean, not too serious, but we like to start off with, where are you from?
I am from Baltimore, Maryland.
Okay. And what got you well, I want to know a little bit about you. Like, so what was your childhood like, kind of where you started off being born there and then kind of got into your acting, if you want to give us a little snippet.
Okay. So I was born from my mother's womb, came out, people cheered, whole hospital apparently, stopped everything they were doing. And like, this is the one we waited for. No, I grew up, I was one of those kids who kind of just didn't want to be seen. Not really looking for attention, just kind of like, if I can like not have anybody like worry about me and I can just be, because I think as a kid, that's what, you know, most of us do, right? It's like, you don't want the attention in a negative way, right? You just like, I'm gonna just be down the middle of the road. And, you know, played sports. I was big in sports and graduated and went to the University of Pittsburgh, played a little football, and then went from like 5th string to 2nd string. And then they changed coaches and they were like, oh, we're going to go with who played last year. So they dropped me back down. I was like, I don't need this. I'll go play baseball. Went play baseball still at Pitt. Did the same thing. Literally, they changed coaches. Same thing happened. I was like, man, I'm going to just go chase girls. And get my degree. And then I graduated and worked in IT for a couple of years. And I was like, man, I was working for a consulting firm, working like 17 hours a day. And I was like, I just don't want to I loved IT, but I was like, I don't want to do this the rest of my life. And so my friend Lamont Rucker, who is an actor and who I went to school with, and I think he was on like General Hospital Days of Our Lives at that time, just reached out to me. We were talking. He's like, "How things going?" I'm like, "Crappy," but he was like, "I remember you talking about doing comedic acting in college," and I was like, "I don't remember saying that." And he was like, I was like, "But that does sound fun." And he was like, "Well, you should try to do stand up." So the IT nerd in me started looking up, like, "Oh, do they have any stand up classes? How do you learn stand up?" And the DC Improv was having their first ever stand up workshop. And I went on their website and it had just happened. And I was like, "Oh man, I missed it." And then I called to get on the waiting list and they're like, "Actually, it didn't happen last week because it snowed. We're going to have it this Monday." And I was like, "I hear you, God." And so I took the stand-up class and I was like, man, the dude who taught it, he was like, it'll probably take you 5 years before you start working. And I was like, it'll probably take you 5 years because you're not that funny. And so I started doing stand-up and I met another friend and it started with like 4 of us. We started writing, doing like open mics every night, 6 days a week, 7 days a week. And then it got down to 2 of us because the other 2 just fell off. And within 6 months, I got asked to open at the Baltimore Improv for like David Allen Greer. And then it was Bobcat Goldthwait. Then it was Tommy Davidson. Then it was Ted Alexandro and Bill Burr and all these people. And then like after, and I started traveling and doing the road. And after like 2.5 years, I'm like, I think I need to move to LA. And people are like, why do you need to move to LA? I was like, because look at my face. This face needs to be on some screen or something. I didn't know. I just knew that like that's where stuff was happening. And people like Bill Burr and Ted Alexandro had pulled me aside and said, listen, like the best thing about your stand-up is your act outs. So I think you should go to LA and you should try LA. And so I moved out here, and I think like I started doing stand up here, and then I got asked to do this competition like Last Comic Stand In for Comedy Central called Open Mic Fight, and I made it to the top like 3. And like my third audition ever, I booked a series regular on this Comedy Central show called the Bobby Lee show, but it was a scripted show. And I was like, they don't know. I don't really know how to act. I was so like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm excited, but I don't know what's going to happen because I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I was in acting class, right?
Yeah.
But and most importantly, when I got to LA, my thought was that I'm going to do 2 years of just training.
Okay.
I don't even need it. I got an agent because someone referred me, but I was like, I don't need an agent. I just want to learn how to do stuff. Like my biggest fear was being embarrassed, because I think, again, like, why am I always nervous? It's I want people to like me. So if people think I'm bad, that's like my worst fear. And so I booked the show, and I did it, and it went well. And I was like, it's about to go down. But I didn't know that some pilots don't go. And that was a hard way to learn that. And so it didn't go. And I mean, that story, then I met a manager, and she embezzled money from me and set my career back 1.5 years. Referred by a friend, who I then found out that everything she was telling me about getting out, she was lying. She just wanted to tell me that so she felt better about herself. And so she steered me to her manager, who then embezzled money from me, which she couldn't embezzle from her because she wasn't working. Yeah. And then my career just kind of I just kind of started slowly loving acting, and slowly less not liking doing stand-up in LA, because of all the elements that it contained, and all the, that I had done the road where people had come to shows to hear stand-up. They hadn't come to like, who's in the audience, blah, blah, blah. And so I fell in love with acting and just started dedicating myself to the craft and getting back, and slowly but surely working.
Yeah. So I want to back up a little bit, because that is a lot.
Sorry.
A lot that happened.
He's like, I asked you one question and you gave me your life synopsis.
So when you got into stand-up and you started doing that, and you said you were traveling, you're like, I'm going to go to LA. And I assume that you were single, and you're like, I'm going to do 2 years, and I'm just going to do all these classes. So what was your process in that? Because again, we've talked to past guests, and they've always gone to school, or, they were found or something like that. So what was that process like, of starting classes, still doing the stand-up, and then also getting your agent? That's 3 questions.
And still working a day job, by the way. Yeah. So I was still working an IT day job because I didn't like to not have money. I grew up not having money. So I was like, I'm gonna be able to feed myself and live somewhere nice. And so that process, it was literally like, I bought a condo in DC, and I bought a condo not because I had foresight, but because all my frat brothers were buying condos, and I was buying houses or condos. And I was like, oh, I guess that's what we do. We buy those things. And so I sold my house there, and then didn't work for like the first 6 months using some of that money. But I just came here and tried to find an acting class, and I found one, and they were doing like theater, and I'm not a big theater guy. Like I didn't go, like you've heard, I didn't go to college for acting. So TV and film is what I liked. And because the theater is not that brown overall historically, right? So some of the stuff I was reading, I was like, I don't really want to do that. And so, yeah, I I knew about like Second City, so I took some improv classes, and then I got in an acting class, and then the first class was a theater class. I was like, eh. And then someone told me about another class, which was more TV and film. So I was taking like 3 classes a week for 2 years, like I just need to learn what this is and how to do it and how to get ahead of people. And so in my acting class, the requirement was that you rehearse 3 days a week. And so and I got put in acting class with some people. Some people were actually on series or like working a lot, but they only rehearse like once a week. And I was like, oh, this is how I catch up. If I act every day and you're acting once a week, I'm eventually going to catch you because I'm putting in more time. And in a lot of cases, I caught almost everybody. And that's been my strategy since then. It's like, I think Will Smith said it too. Like, you might not be the best, but you have to outwork people. And your hard work will outwork them. So you'll be better in most cases because you outwork them.
Yeah. So you just took a bunch of classes. So you would take like 6, 8 week, whatever course, and then you were taking 3 at a time.
Well, yeah, I took I took an intro to improv, and I took like an ongoing acting class, right? And then I take like a cold reading acting class, just because I didn't want any holes in my armor. Like I was like, okay, you have to learn how to do all these things, right? Because sometimes they're like, oh, we want to see you improv, or oh, we want to see you. I mean, the good thing is that stand-up set a background for me to feel comfortable being me. The hardest thing was for me to take someone else's words, right? Because I remember in like my second acting class, right, I did a scene and I was like, I just killed that scene. Like I murdered it. And my acting teacher was like, yeah, what you did was funny, but it wasn't a scene. You basically took the ball, changed the lines that you had all the stuff, and didn't play with that person. That's not acting. And I was like, well, it's funny. I mean, as a stand-up, like that's all that mattered. I was like, it's just funny. But then I learned that it's a different beast, and I learned like, oh wow, like I can actually even be funnier if I play with someone else, and I'm open and present to what they give me, because sometimes most of the time I don't know what's coming, right? Even if I know what's coming, and what comes out of that is it's magic. Right. The same thing in stand-up. When you're in it and someone does something in the audience and you say something, you're like, that was funny. I didn't even pre-plan that. You start to get to that place where you're just like, wow, I'm so present. And to me, that's what acting is. The number one thing is if you can get present, you're 75% better than most actors.
Yeah. Yeah. So when you were taking these classes, you said you had an agent. What was that process? And were they okay with you taking classes and not necessarily pursuing jobs at that time?
Well, let's talk. Well, so let's talk about this. So, when my first like rinky dink agent, right, where I booked that show probably came off of my stand-up, probably not off of my agent, right? And I think in LA, in some cases, you can probably get a rinky dink agent easy, right? But they would hardly send me out for anything, right? Because they were a rinky dink agent, right? They were like, oh, we're submitting you. I don't know what's happening. I'm like, because you have no pull. But when I stopped doing stand-up, and I had the manager who derailed my career a year and a half, I had gone back to and I didn't have that agent anymore. I had gone back to doing workshops, which at one point were a big thing in LA, where you take a 1-day workshop with a casting director and they supposedly give you feedback, and sometimes they call you in, most time they don't, right? And it became a big thing and blew up, and they said that they were, as pay for play or whatever. But I did a workshop with a casting director by the name of Dan Dutton, who did CSI Miami. And she was like, I did a scene, and then we came back and did another scene. And she was like, why don't you do drama? I was like, I don't know, Nan. I want to do whatever that'll pay me to act. And she said, you need an agent. and I'm going to get you an agent. And this is in a room of like 20 people, and which never happens in workshops really. And
Those people are hating you right now.
exactly, right? Because they get up there like, wait a minute, I need an agent too. Like he ain't the only one. Like we all need
I can
agents,
do drama. I
right?
can do dramatic.
And she set me up with an agent, BRS at the time, Bauman Ranty Shaw, who's also on the East Coast. And I met with the owner, and he was like, I'm not sure if you're too green, but we'll send you on some auditions. And I got great feedback, and probably I think booked like the third one or something. But I've had agents and managers over time, and when they put me with my manager, who I still have to this day, it was the first time that I said to myself, wow, I can be with someone who is actually normal and gets me out. I don't have to compromise, right? And so that was the first for me, because before then I'd always said, you know what, if they get me out, you don't have to be friends. You don't have to be a nice guy. You can be sleazy, whatever. Just do your job, and I do my job, and we're fine. But after that, I was like, well, it doesn't have to be that way.
Mm-hmm.
And like after that, I had another agent who's a pretty big agent, probably like A-. And the way some agents work is they divide the town up, right? So if there's 6 agents, each agent will cover part of the town. And this one agent who I had booked, I don't know how much I can say. I booked a pilot with that he covered, right? And basically I did the table read, and people from CAA and some casting directors were calling him saying, we were trying to figure out who this guy was, because he just murdered we're talking about a table read for a pilot for ABC. So it's like 200 people in the room, right? And so like dang it. All right, it's Kerry Washington's pilot. It's fine. I don't care. But basically, like after that one agent didn't give me an audition for a year. And the way it works is that is a part of town I'm not seeing if you don't give me an audition.
Yeah.
And so I left because I was like, I believe in myself too much at this point now, where I'm going to allow that to happen no matter what your stature is.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I had to bounce, and people were like, oh my gosh, you left them. And I was like, yeah, I did. And I went to a smaller agent who then started pumping out auditions.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care what the name's on the door, as long as you get me out. And they were nice and lovely and all the things that I wanted. So, I mean, I think sometimes it's focused on like, if I can get to that agent, well, only if that agent loves you and is willing to work their butt off to get you in.
That's
Yeah.
really great advice, though, because I think so many people think that they try so hard to get an agent, and once they've got an agent, they're there, they've got an agent, they can go for auditions. But what you're saying is, don't settle, know your worth, don't accept anything less than an agent who's going to do the job for you in all parts of town, and who's a nice person. And I think that's really important for people to hear.
Yeah, and also to that caveat is, I also understand, see, to me, life is a pendulum, right? Because some people will listen to this and be like, whatever, dude, it's really easy when you're, some people know you and you're starting to get offers and stuff, right? It's a pendulum. We go back and forth on what we will and what we will not do, right? So I understand getting an agent just to get an agent for the first time. But if you're in that experience and something tells you you should not be there, then leave.
Mm-hmm.
Believe in yourself enough to know that one person does not control your destiny, no matter who it is.
Right.
But yes, like sometimes you may be like, this isn't the perfect agent for me, but let me see if they'll get me out, because right now I'm not getting out. And that's understandable. Or you might take a job that you're like, man, like I need this job to pay my health insurance or to get my first gig or whatever. 2 years from now, you may not take that same job, right? They may be like, Heather, you got to wear a bikini or whatever. And you might be like, well, but this is my first job. It's not crazy. They're not doing anything crazy. It's just sitting, it's ABC or whatever. I'll do it. And then 2 years from now, you're like, I'm not doing it. And that's fine. And that's how the pendulum works. Like we are continuously changing. You don't have to stick to one thing. Like, give yourself credit that it's okay that today you might decide this and tomorrow you may change your mind.
Yeah, it's totally true. And with that being said, of taking like things now and not taking them later, what are some like really great auditions that you've had? And then maybe what are some not so great auditions that you've had?
Okay, I'll start with the not so great because it's very clear. I was up for a series regular on NBC show, and I went in the morning. They were like, just do the first scene, and I did it. And she was like, oh my God, okay, just do it. Did it again. She was like, okay, we'll see you back at 2:00, right? And normally this is not how it happened. And it's funny because the first pilot I did, the same scenario was playing out. When I did the pilot for Bobby Lee, they called me in the morning. Nicole Garcia, who I love, I don't even think she's a casting director anymore. I think she's a manager, was like, okay, let's fix this. Oh, I like this. Okay, great. All right, you go getting a call back. I was like, fantastic. Can work with my coach, get it all good. She's like, see you in an hour and a half in North Hollywood. I was like, what's up? So I was like, I get basically time to get to North Hollywood from here, right? And normally callbacks are days later sometimes. The same thing happened with this, right? She was like, produce a session this afternoon. It's like, cool, different place, years later, same thing happening. This is how we do. And then, so I went, but I actually had time this time to go work with the guy I was coaching with. And we started running, because there was 2 scenes, right? So the first morning, she was like, don't worry about the second scene. And she was like, in the afternoon, bring back the second scene. I was like, okay, cool. So I was like, working on the second scene. I was like, okay, cool. Chopping it up, bomb, bomb, bomb. Got it. Got the beats ready to go. He was like, do you want to do the first scene? I was like, no, I did that this morning. Killed it, right? Go to the callback, blah, blah, blah. Walk in the room, try to do the first scene. Can't remember half the scene. Okay, let's take it back. Sorry. Weird. Don't know what happened. Let's do it again. Take it back, blah, blah, blah. Can't remember. Other part of the scene drops out. Can't remember lines, just gone. I take out my pages out of my back pocket, right? And I look at them, but I'm not looking at them. I'm trying to figure out what is going on with my brain. So I'm not reading the words on the page, which it should be, because I can't remember them. I fold the paper back up, put it back in my back pocket, do it one more time, and just improv the second half of the scene because I can't remember. And then I take a laugh and I say, this is just like a fumble Tuesdays, huh? And I was like, should we do the second scene? And the casting director goes, no, I think we're good.
Oh no.
Yeah. And she says, well, at least he can take an adjustment. And I went in my car and I cried. And that was horrible. And I can still remember it, obviously, very vivid. So, and out of that, just, you learn a lesson. Never think you got it until you got it. Should have probably ran that first scene again. The best audition I had is when I did a pilot for ABC, which was Man of the House with Allison Hannigan and Leslie Bibb. And they called me in like a couple of times. And the third time they were like, we're so sorry to have to call you back. And they changed all the sides and just wanted to see, I think, if I could do it. And there were other people who were bigger names than me who were up for the same thing. And so they were like, can you do it like this? Can you bring it back a little bit? Can you make it like you guys are going to be in a very serious relationship? And it was a multicam. So doing it, I was like, listen, this is a buffet. You can put whatever y'all want to put in it. Just pick. You want olives? I got olives. And they like started dying. But I was so comfortable and so like I'm malleable that it was one of the best auditions I've ever had. And to me, that's all you're trying to do. You're trying to get to a point when they're giving you adjustments. Because I used to think, oh man, I didn't do it right. And my whole goal, because I want people like me, was to do it right. And then I learned like, oh, if they give you adjustments, well, you could kill it, right? You could kill out the box and they'd be like, Dawan, we love you. We know you, blah, blah, blah. But when they're giving you adjustments, most of the time they're like, you're almost there. Let's just see. And so value those instead of thinking like, oh, I messed up. I'm messing it up.
See, that right there is a golden piece of advice.
Yes, I was already planning the quote in my head to release on Instagram. I was like, that was such a good one.
But I mean, it's true. It's like something that I think a lot of people get adjustments in there, and it's the same thing. They're like, shit, I thought I did well on that. They didn't like it. But that mindset is a complete 180.
And remember, think about it like this. You can never know what's in someone's brain, right? You can never also know what happened between the time you got the sides and they got to the session, right? So they could be like, yeah, everything we wrote or you wrote in that description, Mr. Casting Director, is wrong. I don't want that. This is what I want. So you go in like, oh, I did my homework. I read my script. I know the scenes. I know the little trick in the scene they tried to do. Haha, found that, right? And then you go in and they're like, oh, actually, no. But can you try this? And so the thought should be, okay, that wasn't what they're looking for. Fine, whatever. I'm a vacuum salesman is what I say, right? I'm selling the vacuum, have no attachment to it, right? It's not me. I'm not selling myself, I'm selling the vacuum. And then take the adjustment and go in knowing that you will probably be wrong. That's what also one thing I say. Go in knowing you will most likely be wrong. You will get an adjustment. Be upset when you don't get the adjustment. And be like, oh man. And then you might be surprised that you booked it because they loved it so much. But go in not thinking like, they'll tell me if I'm right now. And that'll mean I got the job.
That's great.
And I was gonna, that question is leading me into actually Heather's section, which she talks about how do you prepare for your auditions or set days and things like that. So Heather, if you want to take that away.
Sure. So how do you prepare for your days on set and your auditions?
My days on, well, let's go with auditions first. So I think that the most important thing to do is to know the story you're telling. You are not reciting words on a page. You are telling a story, and each scene is a small subset of a larger story, right? And so I cannot personally pick up sides and memorize them. I can't do it. I've tried to do it, can't do it. I have to run them. And by running them, I get a story in my body. And that story is one story that I want to tell, but because I know a story, I can easily change that story to whatever else you're asking me to change it to. When I memorize that, I have lines in my head and I'm just going down those lines and you are just interrupting me in a lot of cases, right? So if you give me something else, I'm like, oh, you're not supposed to say that like that. Anyway, you're a casting director. You don't know how to act. I'm just going to go back and do what I want to do. And some casting directors are really actually good actors. But so read the script, figure out what my role is. Some of the biggest things, am I a series regular? Am I a guest star? I haven't done too many co-stars lately, not love a co-star because depending on the show, I would do a co-star, right? So basically based on those three things, what is my role? If I'm a series regular, right, I'm driving the story somehow, right? If I'm a guest star, I'm there to deliver information to continue the story along, right? In most cases. If I'm a co-star, I'm there to just say my line and get the hell out. It is not my show. Guest star, usually not your show unless you're top of show. And those are important things because sometimes I think we think like, how can I be the best actor and show them everything I can bring to this role? And sometimes that's not your job. They want someone to come in and say, yes, the restroom's over there. Have a great day. Instead of like, I don't know if you know, but our restroom is in the back, sir. And I just want you to know you should have an amazing day. Right? Like sometimes we want to do because we know what we can do. Like we like, I know what I can do if you give me the thing, right? But you start to realize that what is my role in this bigger picture? And so I figure out what my role is, and then I run it, and I will, run it with different people to get different feelings in my body to be like, oh, this person will give me this person will give me that. Now I'm malleable. Now, like no matter who it is, I can just listen and react and be present because my whole goal is to get present.
Mhm. Do you have any rituals that you do to help you get into the character that you're going to be playing?
Pray. Like, Jesus, don't let me mess this up. No, I mean, it depends on what the character is. Some characters are way closer to me, and some characters are, like I just go to parts. What part of me is like this, right? Like if I'm playing a villain, right? What part of me is normal? Villains are normally primal, right? There's a primal instinct that comes with being a villain. And so I go to the part of me that's primal. Or if it's vulnerable. I'm naturally I lean towards more vulnerability. Even though I'm 6'4", 220, that's something I do easier than being, I feel like Mr. Leading Man, blah, blah, blah. That's boring to me. I'm like, I don't want to. Okay, fine, I'll do the audition. And so I just try to tap into whatever part of me that is and then bump that up and bump the other things down. But the one thing I will do, because when we talk about like essences, I don't know if you guys talk about essence and what you naturally bring to the table, is comedy is always going to be an aspect of anything I do. Like drama, I'm going to find a little bit of comedy in it. I'm going to find, and that doesn't mean it's going to be outside of the box that they told me we're playing in, but I'm going to find some way to make Dawan shine through in that, because we are at the base, the core of what we're playing. Like if you're just making it up out of thin air, you're probably going to have a hard time.
Mm-hmm. And do you find that you tend to get auditions for the same type? Like, do you feel like you've been typecast, or do you feel like you are getting a wide variety?
No, I feel like I'm one of those people who, when I get to where hopefully I'll get to, that I will have a lane. I will have like, to me, Sterling K. Brown was the first person I saw on TV who reminded me of what I do, which is I look a certain way, but on the inside, I'm kind of like a goofy little nerd. Right. I'm not probably as cool as what some people would think my exterior is, right? A three-dimensional person. Go figure. And so it's harder for me because I'm not the bodyguard, but I can play that. I'm not the soldier, but I can play. Well, here's the thing. I am the soldier, but I'm the soldier who's going to be a little bit more comical. But they want that guy to be the skinny, like, or fat, like small guy. Dawan, why would we put like, because he looks like this? It's like, no, it's about essence. Like the characters should all have essences. So until we get to that point, then I'm kind of like, I go out kind of for everything because I don't really have a lane.
Mm-hmm. And you've done a lot of different shows. Do you feel like there's one show or one role that you've done that is kind of maybe was a pivoting turning point or has helped shape your career the most up to this point?
Well, I did Trust Me with Clark Gregg. It was a movie that he wrote and starred in. And we were shooting at like 2 a.m. And and this is also one thing I'll always do. I will always find somewhere in the script to make it myself, to make it mine, to give myself a little fun. Like I may change a word, I may, again, yes, anding the script, but it just gives me a little thing to be like, haha, this is gonna be funny when I do it, because it makes it fun and it takes the pressure off of like, I have to do what you want me to do. And if I can do that, I can get this. I'm like, well, I'll get it on my terms. Like, let's see if you like what I do. But we did it, it was like 2 a.m. and he was tired and we were like, he was behind and we got to do my scene and he was like, okay. And I came out to do my scene, like, can you please sign here, blah, 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 whatever. And he was like, okay, don't worry about it. We're just in the wide, like, just say your lines, like, it's not a big deal. Like, I just need a wide shot. We're never gonna come back to it. Did it. And then I do my next scene. I do that same scene again in the 2-shot, and I change part of the lines at the end. And he was like, okay. He's like, wait, okay, can you just do it again, word for word though? So we have it. I was like, yeah, of course, blah, blah, blah. Do it again, blah, blah, blah. We do a couple of takes. He's like, oh, thank you so much, man. And then so overdone, 2 a.m, I'm tired, whatever. And then like 2 weeks later, there's a showing of them, not 2 weeks, probably like 2 months later. There's a showing, he edited that fast. There's a showing of the movie. And, I didn't even know everyone who was in the movie when we shot it. So when were sending the list of people who were going to be there, I was like, it's Felicity Huffman, Sam Rockwell, William H. Macy, who else? Like basically everybody who makes like 1 point something a year. And I was the only person who had like actual long scene who doesn't make anywhere close to that. And so he came up to me, he was like, man, he was like, when we went to watch the edits, there was no way I couldn't use what you came in with. He was like, it was funnier than what I had. And he was like, and at the time I was just so like trying to, you know, get caught up in, you know, getting it done and making sure I had it perfect. But you brought something that I hadn't even expected. I was like, oh, thank you. And so he walked in to Sarah Finn's office, who cast everything Marvel, and was basically like, this guy is a star. You need to bring him in. And so I started going out for almost every Marvel movie. And then a week later, I got a call that was like, hey, there's a role for you on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the beginning of the show. And you would be a series regular. I was in Pittsburgh, and they were like, can you just put yourself on tape so you show that you can walk and talk? So I was gonna get offered out a series regular on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., which was one of the biggest shows on ABC. And then the director came in at the last minute and said, I owe someone a favor, give it to this guy.
Oh, no.
And I've had a couple of instances like that. And that's kind of where I'm at in my career right now, which is like, oh, it's great to be in a place where people are like, Dawan, is Dawan available? Let's see if Dawan's available to do this thing. Okay, yes. Whole show or series regular or recurring whole show. Oh, what happened? Oh yeah, Donald Glover wanted to do a recurring guest star. I mean, not Donald Glover, Donald Faison. Like, why is Donald Faison doing a recurring guest star? What's up, Donald Faison? Like big Don from Scrubs. That recurring? Okay. Oh, we want you to do this other thing. Blah blah blah. Oh, is it him? The dude just hey, okay, all right. So I mean, you have to look at it and be like, wow, I'm at a place where people want me, right? But still, you have to deal with what that comes with, and still like being close, feeling like you're close and not close, and then other people looking at you and being like, man, I'd love to do, right? It's all perspective. Like you see the future and you see behind, and you're like, okay, I'm grateful for where I am, but I'm not satisfied.
Mm-hmm. And has it gotten easier for you to, like, I don't want to say cope with that, but I guess to accept that? Or do you still struggle and you just want to go home and like eat a bunch of ice cream and be like,
well, I tell you what does get easier is once you can get back on the horse, right? So COVID is a hard thing for everyone because there's been less time to get back on the horse, right? And so when you get to me, once I got to the point where it wasn't months before I got back on the horse, it became easier, if that makes sense, right? Like after a big like that, like when my pilot didn't go for ABC, we found out the last possible day. It was like between us and another show. And then pilot, to me, this is the worst trick the industry has ever done. So pilot season ends and then people go on vacation. So when your pilot doesn't get picked up, there's nothing to do. Like there's no horse. All the horses are out the stable. Like, and you're just like, what am I supposed to do between now and, you know? And so I think it gets easier once you can get back on the horse, or you can figure out things that'll get your mind off of basically something you can't control. Like you can't control, this is not a career of linear paths, right? Like I think you were saying earlier, like this is a thing that you can look at someone else and be right next to someone and they just are gone. Like you could be in acting class and be the best person in your acting class sitting next to the crappiest person in your acting class, and that person's just gone. He's like in another like doesn't even answer your phone calls anymore, like so gone. And it just happens that way. And I would never compare anyone to an animal, but you kind of have to have the horse blinders and be like, this is where I'm at. This is how my career is going to go. And some may shoot off and some may look like a crypto dip, right? Like it's unpredictable. But if this is what you want to do,
there'll always be somebody more successful than yourself, but then there's always going to be so many people looking up wishing they were you. So that's one way to look at it. You're where you are. You're at a place that people know your name and want you for roles, and there's people starting out that might be 10 years older than you, and are wishing that they were anywhere close to where you are.
And the decisions won't always be made on your talent.
Yeah. Yeah, you don't. That's what they always say, isn't it? When you're going for an audition, you got to leave it when you leave the room. Just do your part and then put it in the fuck it bucket when you leave, because you cannot control what they're looking for. Sorry, if you've heard that phrase before.
Yeah, everybody has that. It's
I was
fine.
gonna say.
I always say happy to come, happy to go.
Yes, exactly. Because you can't tell who they've already cast. You can't tell whether you look too similar to the person they've already cast or too dissimilar, or you've got the wrong kind of voice for it, or you've got no idea what they're
Or
looking
you look like the director's ex-girlfriend.
That's right, yeah.
Well, I mean, if they're talking about you when they say that, then that's slightly unfortunate, but
Hey, you never know. Like, he looks just like my ex-girlfriend, and I know it's the dude, but still, I don't want to go to the set every day looking at his face.
Right.
That's funny.
pretty.
So we're coming down to the end. So girls, I don't know if you have any other questions to ask, and then we'll always kind of leave it open for you if there was something that we didn't ask that you really wanted to talk about.
I feel like I did too much talking.
No, I feel like
You're the guest.
like every time you would say something, I was like, oh, I really want to know about that. And then you would like say something and I was like, I really want to know about that. So I could be here for hours just like picking your brain and your experience. But I mean, thank you. Like, I mean, loved hearing everything you said. Do you feel like moving out to LA was a big pivot for your career? Do you think you could have the success that you have now if you hadn't made that switch out to LA?
Well, that's a hard question, because I think that when I moved to LA, the landscape was different.
Mhm.
Like right now, you can look at Canada and look at Atlanta and say there's some people who are stars who just worked in those markets and
Mhm.
blew up on TV shows and movies, and then moved to LA. Right? It's great that the landscape is kind of now changed. I think I needed to come here because I needed the LA training.
Mhm.
Right? I hadn't acted before, so I needed to learn what it was like from an LA standpoint to work and to learn how to act.
Was it hard to get into LA classes? I mean, coming off,
No,
you
got money, they'll take it.
I feel like the hardest thing is to find out like what is a good class, especially for
That's
me.
hard.
When I started and quarantine happened, so everything was shut down. I'm like, is this a real teaching school or is this someone just trying to make money? So it was trying to like maneuver through that. But you said it was easy. Do you feel like?
But I think also it's about, am I growing?
Mhm.
Am I getting closer to what I want to do?
Mhm.
Right? So you can be in an acting class and it could be the best teacher in the world, but if they are tearing you down, or like, because that may work for some people. Some people might be like, I work best when people tear me apart. And other people may be like, I just want to learn how to act. I don't need all the other extra stuff. Like, you got to be somewhere that actually works for you.
I'm so glad you said that, because Ashley and I both have had experiences with an acting class where it was just like, I just went in knowing, all right, what am I going to get ripped apart for this time? Like, it was just like, just tell me one thing good. Like, just one thing is all I want.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, text Ashley, I'm like, I'm anxious, like, because I just, yeah.
But I think we have this community too. And I'm sure you have a community out there. You've talked about your friends and stuff. And it's kind of like, I feel like when you have those experiences and you can kind of give your experience on this, like, how do you deal with that? Like, do you just talk to your friends and like, man, this is how that class went, or this is how that audition went? Like, how do you get back into that? You are good. You are the only Dawan Owens. You are the only person that can do this.
Well, I think that, to me, I've always said class is about the people in it, not about the teacher. Because where you're really learning is from watching other people act, right? You can talk to me until I'm blue in the face about acting and about all the techniques and all the things, blah, blah, blah. But what I'm watching is good acting or bad acting, right? I'm either getting better watching what I'm watching or getting worse watching what I'm watching. And so I've always leaned on people in class and, been like, yo, that class was ridiculous. Like, that was stupid. But what was I going to say? But I also think that in a good class can be what you make it. Because I've been in class with people who come in and say, I want to do this one thing that I do. I only do this one thing. I want to do this thing over and over in any genre, anything. I'm going to steal everything, the spotlight and everything, right? And for instance, for me, I was a big mumbler, probably still mumble now. Probably only heard half of this conversation. And I spent a year just working on being on my voice.
Mm.
And felt like I sucked because of what I wanted to do, right? I wanted everyone to like me. I wanted people to think I was a great actor. And I was like, well, there's a whole other area that are roles that look like I do that I want to be able to steal, right? Because I don't think they're naturally me, but I feel like I could steal them, right? So that's my target started to be like, what can I steal? Like, meaning I'm gonna go out for something, like I did a show, Southland, right? On TNT. And it was for this like drug dealer, right? And I walked into the audition, and there's literally, I lied to you not, a dude who had a tattoo on the side, like his whole face was a tattoo, like, and I was like, okay, that's him. He got it. Like, why are we here, right?
Yeah.
But my thought is, I may not always look the part, but I'm gonna learn how to outact other categories, right? So if it comes down to who's the best actor, then I got it. Right. And so that's what I started doing. It's opening my range of what I can book instead of being like, well, I'm good at this. I'm gonna just do this. Right.
So we always like to ask for 3 words, and the words can be related or it just like totally 3 separate words. Some guests get really tripped up on this. On how would you describe your career or your path so far?
Non-linear, which is a phrase. Fun and challenging.
I think that could describe a lot of people's,
Yeah.
especially the non-linear.
Describe my life.
And do you have any advice that you just would have latched onto just starting out your career? So maybe someone who is in that position.
I think I have the most non-sexy advice that there is, because I've had people reach out to me like in Twitter and other places and stuff, and like, how do I get to like where you are? Like, and my advice is to literally work hard, outwork people, and dedicate yourself to the craft of acting. And I know it's not sexy because people want to be like, oh, well, I know there's got to be some trick to get an agent or the trick to do, and to just follow your gut. Like, and I know we all want to act, right? But we also have to be realistic with ourselves and compare it. Like, when I look at Sterling K. Brown, I say, I still have work to do. Because sometimes I see him do stuff and I'm like, man, dang it. Like, I went out for the People vs. OJ, and one of like associate I know was running camera, and afterwards she hit me up. She was like, yo, they killed it. You killed it. We're sending it to Ryan Murphy. And I was like, I do. And then I found out Sterling K. Brown got it. And I was like, let me turn this on and see what this dude doing. Like, let's see why he. And I watched it and I was like, okay, yep, you deserve that. You know what I mean? And so that's a realistic look of like, okay, I still have work to do. And my job is to get there, right? And along the way, I can still go out and try to book work, but I also have to be realistic about myself is, if I want to be a series regular, am I that good? And don't look at some picking out and being like, no, I'm better than her. You know what I mean? Like, because there's always going to be somebody who you're better than, right? But across the landscape, when you see someone like yourself who in an acting way you strive to say, am I getting closer to being that good? And then do everything to get that good. And then pivot, right? Like, whatever else you feel like doing, do. Life is more important than, trying to attain goals that you can't control. right? Like for instance, over the pandemic, I wrote my first pilot. Was like, I'll write a pilot. And now I have a producer who produced my ABC show who thinks they're going to be able to take it around and think. I had a couple casting directors read it, and we'll see. But it was a pivot. It was like, what am I doing now? What am I know how to tell a story. Why don't I write a story? Like, what am I doing to make me a better actor? Right. Because this can also make me a better actor. Right. Because if I can't write a pilot, then can I really tell a story?
So do you have social media that our followers can follow you at to see that pilot maybe eventually get picked up, or your new project that you're in?
I'll tell you though, like I've kind of ditched social media. Like my stuff is there and I may post again, but I've come to the point where I'm like, if I have to do it this way, I don't really want to have it. I've kind of gone into my own, like, I'm doing it the way I want to do it. And, I was doing things, I think, because that's what we were supposed to do. You're supposed to have this, you're supposed to do that. But yeah, I'm a nobody. But yes, I'm on Twitter. Never tweet. I'm on Instagram, which will probably be the most likely place that I'll ever post something again. But right now I'm living life and trying to like have more life experiences to be a better actor. So yeah, if you follow me, I'll probably look at I'll look at other people sometimes too. I like looking at what other people have going on.
So you're more of an Instagram stalker versus poster.
Oh yeah, I stay stalking.
Yeah. That's the way to go.
Well, thank you again.
And please don't break that up, because if you break that up, then you know what I'm saying, like, and in relation to Instagram and seeing what people are doing in their lives, I can be considered an Instagram stalker, but in real life, I would never stalk anyone.
No, we're editing that to make you look real bad.
Yeah. What's your favorite memory of quarantine? I'm a stalker.
Right. I learned how to stalk people really good, like, and not just the people on my block. I realized I can go online and stalk people 24/7.
All around the world. So do you have any projects coming out soon that like when they're coming out?
Not that I know of. This is like the first time in a while that I haven't had stuff backlogged. That's one nice thing too. It's like sometimes you like get upset, like, oh man, that's not going to come out for a while. But then you hit a lull and then you're like, oh yeah, that's coming out. You know what I mean? So like I have a commercial. I did a campaign for Spectrum. I think that's coming out. But it depends on if you're somewhere that has Spectrum. And then that movie, but I don't know when it's coming out. So
We'll just have to
I'm out here just like everybody else trying to win some jobs.
Yeah, got it. Well,
and the great thing is, the other piece of advice I'll give is always remember you're one audition away. That's the best thing about what we do. Like you're literally one audition away from being exactly where you want to be.
I need to hear that. I almost did not do an audition today because I sound like this. And I was like, you know what?
Let them decide. Let them decide. You got the audition. It's not your job to decide. Let them decide.
Yeah. They might like the sexy croak, Phoebe.
Yeah, it's like,
am I that sexy, raspy voice?
Maybe. Yeah, like
you never know.
And then I'll get it, and then my voice is really gonna be like, hey, and they're gonna be like, oh.
You're like, we don't know what
you don't know what they're gonna be like.
Yeah,
They might want that.
I might have to start smoking.
That's the one thing we got to remember. No matter what, we have no clue what they know or want.
Mm-hmm. I think that's what I think the hard part is. Is especially if you are like a people pleaser and you just
That's why I'm always like, the adjustments are great now, because I'm like, just tell me what you want.
Mm-hmm.
Like one of the things I say when I walk into a room, they say, do you have any questions? I said, no, I'll show you what I got and we can play if you want to play. If not, you can kick me out. And they're always like, I love that. And I'm like, no, it's true. Like, I want to give you what you want. Just tell me.
Because I think a lot of people get hung up on that because they're going through the script and they're like, okay, what do they want? What do I think they want to see out of it, instead of just approaching it your way?
What story are we telling? Don't think about what they want. When you read it, what story are we telling? Mm-hmm. Right? Like, are we telling a story about a guy who is in a situation with this woman, but obviously the trauma from his back life is causing him to be awkward in this moment? Or like trying to like think about what they want is never going to work. You have to think about, when I read this is the story that I heard. And even sometimes this is the story that I want to tell. Like sometimes I go out for stuff and I feel like it's very two-dimensional or not written well. And I'll go in with an audition and say, this is the story I'm willing to tell. So if you want me, I'm gonna tell a three-dimensional story and it's gonna go like this. And if you don't, then that's fine.
Brave. I love it.
Because you don't want to do it some way that you think they want it, and then they say, "Oh yeah, we like that," and that's something you would hate to do for the rest of your life. And you're on that show for 6 years doing that thing.
That's true.
Well, Dawan, thank you for coming on.
Thank you guys.
And you did have golden nuggets. You need
That
to
wasn't
be more
ain't
confident.
no nuggets in there.
There was plenty of nuggets. And next time somebody contacts you on Instagram or Twitter and they ask you for advice and ask you how you're gonna, they're gonna get to where you are, just send.
I'm gonna tell them to watch your show.
Yes.
Tell them watch your podcast.
Yes.
Listen to a bunch of people. Figure out what works for them.
Exactly.
I don't know anything. Okay. I don't know how I got here. This is
You know plenty. And you know what worked for your journey. And that's the most important thing, because everyone's journey is different. Yet there will be people out there like you who want to have a career like yours, who are from a background like yours, or who are starting later in life, or the beauty of our amazing guests is people can cherry pick advice from different interviews to find what works for them, because everyone's different.
And I so agree. And I'm so glad that like to see a group of people who are like, oh, we're starting later, and realize that means nothing, right? It just means that you finally found the thing you want to do in life and you're pursuing it, right? And the validation doesn't come from the jobs you book. The validation comes because you're doing it.
Yeah.
And I am one to say, I hate you got to love the journey. When you're in the journey, this sucks sometimes, right? But when you see somebody who has no clue what they want to do in life, that should always take you back to like, wow, like I'm doing what I want to do.
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. A lot of people will go through their entire life not doing anything they want to do.
I think that was the one thing the pandemic did. I know for me, and I think you two ladies was like, this isn't how I want to spend the rest of my life. Like what we're doing, like it's not fulfilling at all. So.
And you're quitting. Heather's quitting her job.
Yeah.
And in 5 years from now, you might be like, I want to do something else different.
And then
you can do it. Just always follow, life is too short to like be doing something you don't want to do. And also there will be days when you wake up and say, I don't know if I want to do acting. And I think that's a great place to be, because it makes you, I evaluate all the time. Like, and my other piece of advice, as I've always said, is that with headshots, classes, stress, late nights, filming with your kids, like, can you just I need you guys to watch TV. Go watch Bubble Guppies for like 15 minutes, okay? Mirror, whatever it is. And Daddy and I are going to try to get this take. Okay, we're not going to get in 15 minutes. We're going to get in 45 minutes, but whatever. I've always said, I will get back the money that I put into this industry. So I'm here until y'all give me back my money.
I'm just going to sit my happy little butt down right here.
You're going to book me on something, and eventually I'm going to get my money back. Like, I'm not leaving until I get my money. I think it's a great way to look at it, because it's like, I put time and effort into this thing, and I will continue to fight for what I feel like is mine, which is the ability to let my voice be heard.
Love it.
That's awesome.
Well, again, thank you so much. We appreciate your time today, and maybe you can come on again in another year or so. And we can say, that.
Hopefully, I'm too busy.
Yeah,
no, hopefully you guys
will never be too busy.
I'm like, girls, can I get on your show, please? Like, I just want to, like, remember I did it a year ago. Owens, Dawan, yes, Owens.
Like who? I don't.
David.
Remember my daughter had come.
That would be like, yes, we remember the cute girl. Yes.
Like, yes, maybe in a couple of years. What are you working on? Is anything percolating? No? Okay. We'll get back to you.
I would love to think that we're in that position a year from now, but
stay in touch. Let me know how it goes.
Definitely.
You guys, you book anything, just email me.
Yeah,
I love celebrating people booking.
Oh yes. We'll just stalk each other on Instagram.
Yeah.
Stalk
I
you.
already started stalking you today. I'm already there. Stalker, lurker. I'm a lurker.
All right. Well, again, thanks. We like to do official wave, if you will.
Pageant. Oh.